The commendable thing about Iron Lung is that it's self-funded, written and directed, and partially self-distributed by YouTuber Markiplier. It's already made a significant profit in its opening weekend, so Mark Fischbach should definitely be encouraged by that. However, the movie itself is not good. I have familiarity with the Iron Lung game. It's simplistic, atmospheric, and mildly suspenseful. So coming into this movie, I had similar expectations, and I was also curious to see how the story would be expanded in the film medium, because I do think there's something that could be done there. The set is pretty much a one-for-one adaptation from the game, with similar enough mechanics. The introductory portions of the story are also right out of the video game. But the plot and characters, though, is where the movie really falls short. I didn't feel a sense of dread or experience a looming milieu of something sinister with this movie. It takes a very long time to get to some semblance of a point in the film. It just didn't seem like the movie knew what it wanted to be. Did it want to be a depiction of a man's descent into madness? Literally and figuratively? Kinda sorta. Or maybe it wanted to be a graphic and bloody horror film with some mysterious monster elements. Again, it has hints of that, but doesn't do it effectively. It also doesn't help that the main character and sequences we see aren't reliable narrators to the overall story. There was a point in the third act where the movie seemed like it was going to end, because of the attempts to have some resolution to the events that occurred. But also because I know how the game ends, and it felt like the movie was trying to go for that kind of ending. But then the film basically resets, and the past 20 to 30 minutes of what we just saw didn't actually happen. From there, we get another laborious series of closing scenes that take another 20 minutes or so to conclude. And when you compound that with a character that isn't really interesting or compelling, the movie feels like a chore to get through. Mark's character of Simon is a convict, an expendable individual, much like how the game positions it. But then, the movie picks and chooses its stance on when it values human life and when it doesn't really matter, because the mission is of utmost importance.
There aren't enough of us left to be throwing lives away, but there is too much at stake not to take calculated risks. Ian doesn't understand that. You don't understand that!
The attempts to give Mark's character more backstory are sporadically distributed throughout the film, which don't help at endearing you to his character. The acting is okay, maybe a little bit overdramatic at points, but if you're not somebody who was a fan of Markiplier coming into the movie, I don't think there's enough character work done at necessary parts of the film to really make you care about his plight. Speaking of the mission, it isn't very clear what the objective of this operation is. I was willing to dismiss the vagueness of this Blood Ocean expedition because that's kind of how the game goes. But the movie introduces other characters and scenes to try to build out the world more. And these secondary characters are stereotypical authority figure tropes that didn't help in building my investment and immersion in the film. And for the sequences geared towards world building and context for Mark's character and his objective, it got pretty convoluted and hard to follow. Also doesn't help that these lines of dialogue were delivered with significant vocal distortion, so it literally made it hard to understand. You don't really get a sense of why Mark's discoveries are important, the dialogue just tells you that it is. It's not a dialogue-heavy movie, but there are times when the lines between characters gets pretty rough. The lines of ADR were also quite noticeable. And as alluded to before, the mixing and distortion choices made it tough to understand what was being said. The movie could have used silence and intermittent unknown noises to facilitate building suspense, but this didn't occur. Instead, some of the score and background music choices were overbaked, and it made story elements predictable. The Iron Lung movie seems to have lacked focus, and wasn't efficient or effective with its shot selection. Several times we get close-ups of condensation, liquid, and blood that aren't really manifested into anything substantial until the final 10 minutes of the film, when it was no longer a surprise that there was something wrong with the blood entering the Iron Lung cabin. The scenes of delusion and attempts to be mysterious are also pretty telegraphed, so the tone and vibe the movie was going for fell flat. I think the movie really would have benefited from being trimmed up significantly and focusing on doing one thing really well, instead of having expansionary elements from the lore that aren't clearly explained, and character and story directions that aren't executed in a fulfilling way either. And that's the gist for my thoughts on Iron Lung. I don't think this movie is really worthwhile, especially when you're likely to have a better time with the game that itself could be completed in less time. But I still think that it's very cool that a YouTuber could bypass the traditional Hollywood movie making system and make a significant profit on a lower budget movie. What did you think of Iron Lung? Hit me up, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll catch you next time on The Gist.